Good afternoon and welcome to Biztech's Asian Midday Market Watch, brought to you by Share Investor Group, providing stock market data, analytics, investor education, and online investor relations. Now it's Thursday and we have our regular guest, David Kuo, founder of The Smart Investor, coming to you today out of Singapore. Welcome back, David.
Selamat tengah hari, Brian. Yes, it's good to be back.
So no more 6 a.m. Morning calls from London.
No more early morning alarms going off. Yeah, you're quite right. It's good to be back.
Now, David, before we get your insights, let's take a look and see how markets have been performing. We start with crypto markets. Bitcoin is at 21,539.4. It's up 0.99%. Ethereum is at 1,676. It's up 3.26%. Now, looking across to regional stock markets, first of all, Hong Kong has cancelled its morning session because of a typhoon warning. We start with the SGX. That's up 0.18%. Bursa Malaysia is up 1.31%. Shanghai is up 0.49%. The ASX All Ordinaries is up 0.68%. The Nikkei is up 0.73%. The Hang Seng is up 1.26%, and the Kospi is up 0.97%. Now, David, sea of green, tell us why.
Well, I think it's partly because of Wall Street last night. The indices yesterday were up. I think the Dow was up about 50 or 60 points, and so too was the Nasdaq and the S&P 500, and it broke a 3-day losing streak. So all the focus at the moment, Brian, is on the Jackson Hole Symposium, which starts today, and everybody will be hanging on the words of Jay Powell tomorrow because he will be giving his presentation. And I think it's partly because nobody wants to be caught off guard. And so whilst the markets have been very pessimistic up until now, they are just wondering which Jay Powell will turn up tomorrow. Will it be the hawkish Jay Powell or will it be the dovish Jay Powell? And I think markets are up because they think it might be a slightly dovish Jay Powell that will turn up tomorrow. But these symposiums and the Fed chair speeches will really sort of hinge on what people want to take away from it. Personally, I think Jay Powell will speak out of both sides of his mouth at the same time. On the one hand, he will want to sound as though he is going to be very concerned about inflation, and inflation is a problem. But on the other hand, he doesn't want to spook the market too much by sounding too hawkish. So that is probably why the markets are behaving the way that they are. But the speech is key, Brian, tomorrow. And people, as I said, will take away from that speech whatever they want. So be very careful about what you hear from reporters when they dissect that speech tomorrow.
Now, essentially, one of the things that the crux of everything, and we could distill it down to really simple terms, is it going to be a 50 basis point increase or a 75 basis point increase? And that's what it is, isn't it?
That is essentially it. And again, whether it is 50 or 75 basis points increase in interest rates, people will again take away from that whatever they want. If it's only a 50 basis point increase, people will say, oh, there's going to be more down the road. There's going to be worse down the road because 50 basis point isn't really going to cut it when you've got inflation running at 9%. But if it's a 75 basis point, then they might say, oh, okay, he's done all the heavy work now, and so therefore we can expect slightly lower increases in the future. So again, as I said, people will take away from that speech whatever they want. But ultimately, you cannot get away from the fact that inflation in the US is high. It is up around 9%. Core inflation is around 5%. So those inflation numbers are terrible, Brian. The other thing is I've just come back from the UK, and the final headline that I read in the newspapers before I got on my flight was that they are predicting that inflation in the UK could hit 18%, Brian, right? I mean, can you imagine 18% inflation? And what is that going to do to consumer confidence? And some of the strange things that you read at the moment are these research reports that say that consumers are very concerned about inflation, which they are in the UK, but it doesn't seem to be impacting in any way the behavioral patterns of people. Whilst they are very concerned about inflation, and people are talking about inflation all the time, the restaurants are still busy. So people are still carrying on spending as though it's okay, it's not a problem. And I think a lot of people are expecting governments to step in and help them. And they think that, well, the central banks may increase interest rates, but we're going to be getting subsidies. We're going to be getting help from the government. And at the moment, there is a leadership battle going on in the UK between two people, Liz Truss and also Rishi Sunak. These are the two people who are vying for becoming the next Prime Minister of the UK, because as we all know, Boris Johnson has been sacked by the party. And both of them are saying that, you know, they need to help the consumers, but how are they going to do it? And in a country like the UK, where they have these huge debt levels, not just government debt, but also household debt, what are they going to do? If they do ratchet up interest rate, it's going to cripple the consumer and it's going to drive the economy into recession, which it already is in. And so I think central bankers, governments have a really difficult problem to try and sort of resolve these two things. And maybe we can turn to what's going on in China, Brian, yeah?
Yeah, so China taken a different approach, obviously, just announced a huge stimulus package. Tell us a little bit more, David, and what do you think the impact is going to be, not only within China, but also for the rest of Asia?
Well, the thing is, I mean, China is slowing down. And of course, the leadership there is very concerned about the slowdown in China. And they have an unemployment problem. They have a COVID problem. And what it seems to be happening is that they just think that throwing money at the problem is going to resolve things. So they've put together this 1 trillion yuan package, which they hope will be able to stabilize the economy and somehow drive economic growth. But what are they going to do, Brian? They're doing what they've done previously, which is to focus on infrastructure projects. So they're going to be building more roads, probably more airports again. I mean, how many airports does a country really need? But they're still going to be doing that. They're going to be focusing, as I said, on infrastructure projects, because these are shovel-ready projects. You announce an infrastructure project, and you're going to be employing people. People have to be there to go and do the digging and do the building. And so it could be able to resolve the problem. But it doesn't get away from the main issue, which is that it is going to heap more debt onto the country. And of course, you know, that debt has to be paid. And that is something that people tend to forget. We solve the problem now, but the unintended consequence, and if this was something that one of the corner shop owners said to me, they said, when I was in the UK, and he said, it's fine if the government sort of gives subsidies to people, but who is going to be paying for it, right? And this is the realistic aspect of government subsidies. Who is going to be paying for it? And he said, and he's around sort of 60 odd, 70 years of age. He said, I won't be paying for it, because he said, I'll be long gone by then. But he said, it'll be my children and my grandchildren who will be paying for it. And of course, that is the unintended consequence of any kind of measures that governments try and put in place in order to try and help people today, just to sort of garner some kind of confidence vote from the consumers today. It'll be the generations after that that will be paying for it, Brian.
David, as always, thank you very much for your insights, and thanks for coming on the show.
You're welcome. Thank you.
I'm Brian Fernandez, and we've been speaking to David Kuo, founder of the Smart Investor out of Singapore, on Biztech's Asian Midday Market Watch. Now, for all of you in Singapore, you will be able to catch David at Invest Fair by Share Investor, which is happening physically at Suntec Convention Hall 404 this Saturday, August the 27th from 9 a.m. onwards. It's a free-to-attend event featuring a power pack program by 18 investment experts, headed, of course, the headline is David Kuo. Sign up today at investfair2022.com. I'm Brian Fernandez. This video and podcast will be on our website, www.biztech.asia, as well as our partners' social media and TV platforms. Thanks a lot for tuning in.